So we're joined here today with Angus Irwin, the CEO and founder of Neutrog fertilizers. I've been working with Angus for quite a while now on the business, getting them ready for the crowdfunding offer. Got to know the business really well, and obviously Angus too. So really pleased to be giving Angus the opportunity to answer some questions that we've been given by the on-market crowd and Angus's own crowd through Neutrog, to get a better feeling for the business and get a better feeling for Angus and his vision for the business and where you'd like to take it. So welcome, Angus. Angus, ultimately, what is the vision? Where do you see Neutrog going? What do you want? Where do you want to see this business being in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I've been involved in this business for 35 years. I do jump out of bed and I race up here, and I'm as excited as ever about where Neutrog's going. And I really do think we're only just at the beginning of a massive journey, and we really are on the cusp of a great opportunity to help feed the world, frankly, and that's really exciting.
So Angus, can you tell us a bit of background about why you're doing the crowdfunding? Obviously, Neutrog, you could raise the funds through any number of channels. Why is it that you're looking at doing a crowdfunding raise?
As you know, Nick, I first got in contact with you in 2017. It might have even been earlier than that. And I got in contact with you because the crowdfunding model had always appealed to what Neutrog had done historically, and that is our whole business has been built upon gaining supporters both across home gardeners and commercial growers who've had the confidence to use our products. And we saw that the opportunity with crowdfunding is an absolute extension of that. And yes, we have had opportunities. In fact, we get approached probably by private equity once or twice a week these days, and that would be a very easy path to go down. But the entire business has been built on supporters, and we see just a great opportunity to continue that to happen and potentially provide the supporters with the opportunity to share in our future success with us.
What inspired the creation of Neutrog all those years ago?
I come from a farming background, a little town called Keith in the southeast of South Australia. We're sort of an English family farm, have an older brother, and being the second eldest son, the eldest son gets the farm. And so when I left school, the farm wasn't an opportunity, so I was looking for other things to do. And once we came across a very small company that was actually pelletising poultry manure, and it went broke, and that's sort of where the concept came from. And we got a group of 4 other people together, and in 1988, I was at the age of only 24, we set up Neutrog, and it was a unmitigated disaster to start with. We borrowed over $1 million and turned over $60,000 in our first year.
Right, so you've obviously come a long way from there into where Neutrog is now. So can you give us a bit of background on how the business has evolved from those humble beginnings?
Yep. Because of our farming background, we went into broadacre fertilisers. So even that was crazy. And we were pelletising chicken manure, and we're trying to sell organic fertilisers to broadacre farmers, which even today is a challenge. And so hence why we had such a bad start to our business. And then in the second and third year, we started to understand that the market was, from a commercial perspective, was better directed towards horticulture and viticulture, because they were traditional users of poultry manure. And then I think we made our first discovery, and that was we bought out a retail pack, home garden pack, and that was released onto the market. And literally in the first year, our turnover went from 200,000 to 1.1 million, and we made our first profit in our first year. And so we really understood the importance of the home garden market to what eventually happens in the commercial market. The next stage of that, when we realised that the impact we were having on the commercial market through our visibility and awareness in the retail market, our next challenge was then how do we build the retail market? And at that stage, there wasn't a whole lot of options available to us. Most of the other businesses in this sector have been built on effectively paying a media personality, and we neither had the money to do that or the wherefore for doing that. And so we started off working actually with the Botanic Gardens, and we had established a relationship with them. And then the second part of that occurred when we started to understand that the hierarchical system existed in the home garden market, whereby casual gardeners sort of looked up to serious gardeners, and that really underpinned everything we do today. So from that moment on, we set up, we talked to all the garden clubs around Australia and any serious gardener we could come across, and we're just trying to get our message out to them. And then the third stage of that, I suppose, was when we hooked up with the SA Rose Society, and they'd come across one of our products, commercial products. It was a product called Virginia Mix, which was not clearly as clever a name as we have these days, insofar as Virginia Mix was named after the town that we're selling the product in. And we were approached by the Rose Society to develop a rose fertiliser. So we made a few changes to that product and came up with a rose fertiliser, which is probably the biggest selling rose fertiliser in the country and has been for some years. And again, we realised the power of that community. I think there was 1,000 members of the Rose Society, and in a very quick time, we sold out of that product in about 7 days. I think we sold something like 20,000 units, and we'd done no advertising whatsoever. So I guess that reinforced the power of community groups and having advocates and working with them and developing relationships with them. So that's pretty much underpinned everything we've ever done.
Yeah, great. That's great. So I think you've mentioned you've got over 48,000 people on your database in terms of Neutrog community, and many of the leading garden clubs, big and small, around Australia, as advocates and users of the product, which speaks wonders to where you're up to. So Angus, obviously, getting to know the business, I've really come to appreciate the focus on R&D and the science and technology behind what you're doing. Can you give us a bit of an overview in terms of how that's evolved through the business evolution?
Yep. Well, I mean, as we mentioned, we started off in the commercial market into the broad acre side, and we were producing pelletised organic fertilisers. And over a period of time, we actually started to question, and particularly about 15 to 20 years ago, what was actually happening, that the products that we were composting and the like were completely outperforming their raw counterparts, and they're also outperforming chemical fertilisers. And it came down to discovery and curiosity. When probiotics came out, I started to think maybe it's got to do with biology, and I actually started brewing our compost in a beer brewing kit. I had no idea what I was doing, and I fortunately came across a guy in Dr. Huey Strower, who was at that stage was a research scientist at Adelaide University, researching cholera and Hep B. And I had a coffee with him, and the first thing he said to me was that I was trying to brew up anaerobic bacteria. He actually laughed and said what I was doing was brewing up anaerobic bacteria as opposed to aerobic bacteria. But I guess the main point out of that meeting was that he said that what we'd been doing, because we'd been composting on the same site for so long, we were actually in effect breeding superbugs for the degradation of organic materials. And what was happening is when we applied the product, that was also help break down materials out in the field, and then thereby providing more nutrients to the plants, and hence one of the reasons why our products work. It evolved even from there, because we separated in our own minds at that point in time. We had a company that was making organic fertilisers and biological fertilisers, and then again, by another discovery, we actually had an accountant, funnily enough, sitting up here, and we were doing some research and development work, and he said, your whole business actually is about bacteria. And it's probably when we first realised, or I first had one of those light bulb moments, to realise that our whole business is around bacteria. So whether it's composting our product at the start all the way through to the end, it's all about bacteria. And so that really started the journey of where we changed our persona from organic to biological, and with that biological came a real performance requirement and responsibility.
Yeah, sure. Because I suppose you look at your products you've got in the market at the moment. The well-known ones, Rooster Booster, Hooflung Dung, Sudden Impact of Roses. They are very much pelletised products, and obviously there's a lot of opportunity there. But where do you see the opportunity for business going forward?
Look, the interesting thing is where we sit right now is that all of our business is actually based upon the old, if you like, the old Neutrog. What we've been doing for the last 10 years of doing a whole heap of research and development by you're literally scanning soils for bacteria that have functions in the soil. And so what we're doing, and Yui and his assistant Dewey, what they basically do is they screen soils, and they find in those soils bacteria that do things like phosphorus liberation, potassium liberation, calcium liberation, nitrogen fixing, auxin producers, and there's other things we've not even touched on at this stage in drought tolerance and salinity. And over that period of time, I think, first of all, probably 5 years ago, we probably only had 2 or 3 bugs that we had, and we would put them into our freezer. And today, I mean, and this has changed literally just in the last month, it's gone from 500 to 600 bugs, and they all do different functionalities. And we're starting to put together specific biological products for initially for the commercial market, which will flow through into the retail market. And they literally are starting to flow out in the coming months.
It'd be good to take a step back to talk about, I suppose, each of the product lines you've got within the business. And what are the brands, and what are the sort of each product line and focus that you've got, and then we can drill into each one of them that's of interest.
Yep. Well, I mean, I suppose we've got a range of 3 or 4 core products, and most of those are what I'd say commercial certified organic base, which is what the company was sort of built on. And they're products such as Bounce Back, which is Bounce Back and Rooster Booster and Rapid Razor and Seam Angus, and Blade Runner, which is a derivative of Bounce Back. And they are our core everyday products. So they probably account for about 90% of our production at this point in time. And then we have a range of what I'd call specialty type products, where they've very much been developed. They've if you like, births via the commercial market on the principles that from the commercial market. And we have products like Sudden Impact for roses, Strike Back for orchids, Kahuna, Kahunas for acid-loving plants, and then we go into products like mulches, which is hoo-flung dung, which is a byproduct of them from the manufacture of our core organic products, and then we're starting to develop our biological products, and they're not just specific purpose biological products. There's also their application. So we're building we've got a coating plant so that we'll be able to start coating specific bugs on the pellets. I mean, my vision is that at some point in time, a farmer, particularly a broadacre farm, which we've always struggled with, will be able to ring us up and say, I want phosphorus liberating bugs on my product, and we'll push a button and we'll be able to apply that or coat it onto the pellets. And we're about 2 months away from that. So it's a really, really exciting place to be.
So a core ingredient of what you work with is obviously chicken manure. How do you ensure you've got security of supply of that chicken manure for the pelletized products?
It's interesting. South Australia produces probably 40 to 50% of the chicken manure in the country, and that's set up so that it is in the best distribution place in Australia, i.e. they can get their chickens to market in the eastern states very cheaply, and hence why they are set up down here. And probably half of that supply is set up within a 50k radius around Neutrog. So we have a great opportunity. There's about 25 Ingham's growers, and we actually used to have the head of Ingham's South Australia on Neutrog's board, and sadly he passed away a couple of years ago. But in amongst that, we established a terrific relationship with the whole heap of growers. We've got a number of growers that their manure is contracted to us. We've got a number of growers who are shareholders in Neutrog. We contract out all of our transport to one of the largest growers, who also cleans out the growing sheds, and he just happens to also be a shareholder of Neutrog. And we also have a fund where we pay bonuses to the growers. So our strategy is actually quite simple, and that is, the more we can value add to our product, the more we can actually invest in giving back to those growers, so that we're ahead of the marketplace. And so we certainly feel very secure in where we're at with our chicken manure supply. And
so obviously we talked about the supply side, the product side. What about the markets that you go to? Your core markets, you've got the retail market, the commercial market, and export market. Let's talk about the retail market initially.
Yep. And the retail market is, at this point in time, the retail market is mostly controlled by Bunnings. I think in our category, Bunnings probably have about a 70% share. I mean, it's massive, and we've been a very large supplier to Bunnings for a lot of years, enjoy a very, very strong relationship with them. Having said that, we have a great relationship with Mitre 10 and Home Hardware and all the independents. So it is a fine line to maintain relationships with all of them. We have to supply, for example, into Bunnings national. We don't have to, but our business is to supply to the retail market nationally, and we have warehouses in other states that we're able to meet the delivery demands.
Yeah, sure. And obviously, you've got a number of products sold to retail consumers. How do you see them all working with each other?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt we take a very strategic approach to the retail market. I mean, what we're wanting to do is dominate in each of the major categories, and what we do is we bring out products that are different. I mean, none of the products that we bring out are Mark II. We're innovative, with market leaders in the development. I mean, certainly in the home garden sense, there's nobody that's even close to bringing out those products with the innovation and development. And the most exciting thing for us is the products work, and they work quickly. So we get such a terrific response from all of those people that we're close to, and hence why it makes them talk about them.
Yeah, sure. So look, I suppose going from retail, let's talk about the commercial side. You've got a number of wholesale commercial partners you work with, and how do you get your product to the end users there?
Yep. I mean, look, currently at the moment we use a traditional model. In fact, it's worth going back to the start. When we first bought out Neutrog, we were bringing out products that just simply weren't known by the marketplace, and so we really did set up our salespeople so that they would go direct to growers, and we did a lot of work at ground level. And again, the same sort of model that we actually had on the retail side. We were getting the growers and putting them into our database and creating relationships with them, because whilst they didn't use the product, there's a big part of what we did is about educating the market to our types of products. And over a period of time, we probably existed on that model for about 25 years, until such time as the product started to become more mainstream, and then we started to be more reliant upon making relationships with the distributors out in the marketplace. And there's probably a transition happening as we speak, insofar as our products are now becoming so technical that the concept of telling a rep who then tells a distributor about our products is starting to become a bit archaic. And at the moment, we're really looking at forming very close relationships with distributors and specific distributors, and potentially having a look at almost a franchise type operation. So that just franchise insofar as what that means, and that will allow us to spend more time focusing on educating the growers, the distributors. And so, one of the things we have just been doing is a bit of a road trip on this product we've developed with elders called Populate, and we go out to the distributors, and the elders distributors, and we will talk them about our products and do a presentation, and you will do his very deep dive presentation into the technical side of things. And then from that, we'll actually fly some of those people who work for elders to Neutrog, and we'll take them through the process with you of exactly what goes on. And then again, the advocacy or the information can flow from a first-hand knowledge, which is really difficult, and with the degree of science that's in our products now. So it is all about education.
Yeah, sure. We'll drill into that a little bit later when we talk about the use of funds and what you're actually applying the funds from this crowdfunding raise. But I suppose the final sort of end market is export. You could sort of hear your story and your plans around the export market as well.
Yep, and we have a massive export market, and it doesn't generate a whole lot of margin for us, but it does play a massive role in our business, insofar as we really just need to. We are a manufacturing operation, and one of the key aspects of manufacturing operation is to keep them running at optimum levels. And with COVID, the whole world has got a whole lot more aware of biosecurity, and so we're actually finding where we're sending products to Korea and Taiwan and Singapore and Guam and America. Slowly, one by one, they've actually all closed down, and we actually now only export to Vietnam. And what we've done as a consequence to that is that we've actually been working on a certified heat treatment process, and that certified heat treatment process will actually effectively enclose our product in a system where it's heated for 72 degrees for 12 seconds. And by being able to log that, what it actually allows us to do is to sell products all around the world that have been certified not to contain pathogens. And that will open up the entire world. Most companies can't export anything to New Zealand, and when we get certification, we'll be able to do that. And the second part of the benefit of that is that in ready-to-eat salads and those that are really nervous about pathogens, we'll be able to actually provide certified product to those, and they'll be able to use them at will on crops that are going to be used for food for human consumption.
Interesting. And I suppose that sort of plays into obviously your heat certification you talked about before. It comes down through R&D and a lot of hard work. But can you tell us a bit about sort of the R&D process you go through and what you've got coming through that R&D pipeline at the moment?
There's more than just the bacteria and microbes. It also goes down into products. For example, we're currently working with coffee. We're currently working on products that inhibit and suppress diseases, and we're currently then working on products that we might generate out of those, such as out of the almond hulls. We're looking at potentially producing a cat litter, and that cat litter will then be coated with products that will then help reduce odour and also increase its compostability. So there's a whole diversity of products, and then there's a whole diversity of processes like the heat certification, the coating, and also we're looking at actually doing a biological soil test, which is a PCR-based high-tech ability to be able to determine the biology that's in the soils, be it at home or be it on a farm.
Yeah, right. Gosh, a lot going on there. Look, so Angus, obviously a big question we have from a lot of investors in relation to crowdfunding is the ability to sell the shares post completion of the offer. Obviously, you're not going to be listed on the ASX or any exchange. So people are concerned about that illiquidity. You did mention in the offer document that you were looking at setting up a low volume trading market for shares. And effectively, for those people that don't know, that's just effectively a bulletin board that the company was set up, which would allow people to express their interest in the ability to buy or sell, or in their desire to buy or sell shares in the company. It's quite a common occurrence in Australia. It's an ASIC approved regime, and I think it's a great initiative of Neutrog to look into that. Angus, do you have anything else that you wanted to mention on that? Or
yeah, I'm really pleased to be able to advise that the board has signed off on the establishment of the low volume trading market, and from our perspective, it's a great initiative because it will allow those mums and dads investors that are supporters of the company to exit shares if the need arises.
Yeah, great. Look, I think that'll help those people that do need to sell. Obviously, most people come in with a longer term view, but you never really know what situations do come about. So I think it's a great initiative. Yep. So Angus, use of funds. What are you going to apply the funds from the crowdfunding offer to?
There's basically three parts to it, Nick. The first part is that we're looking at expanding our laboratory to about 4 times its size, and which is incredibly exciting because we can be looking at putting a couple of more scientists in there, and we're going to be turning it into what's called a PC2 laboratory, which will allow us to take soils from overseas and process them here. And the second part of that is an education centre. We're getting between 3 and 4 busloads of people coming up and having a look. And I guess as people are going through this video and having a look at Neutrog, it is actually a real discovery. We do a lot of things that a lot of people don't know. And so the more people that we can get up to educate them about what we do, the better. So we're building a 120-seat education centre, which will allow us to bring people from all over the place. And the third thing we're looking at doing is increase our biological capacity, and that can be from brewing bugs in concentrated versions all the way up to in 10,000 litre vats.
And so, look, Angus, if there was any concluding messages that you want to give, anything you'd like to share with investors about your thoughts around this opportunity and the business?
We really have only just started, and we've been getting to this point for probably 10 to 15 years, and we're now at the point where we can start rolling products out. I see us internationally being able to set up operations around the world, whether that's bringing soils and screening them here and sending bugs back to the countries. But I certainly see the business at least doubling in the next 5 years. And then I certainly see great opportunity. I mean, we're getting opportunities every day from private equities to companies wanting to purchase and that sort of scenario. But I just don't think we've added enough value yet, and that's where the great opportunity lies for both us and the shareholders that we're getting on board.
So thanks, Angus, for that informative overview of Neutrog and where you've come from and where you're going. Really exciting story, and I think something that has definitely captured the imagination. I think up to now, we've already had a significant number of investors coming through and a lot of interest, a lot of questions coming through, which is fantastic. So just want to thank you for your time. And for those people watching this video, if you do have any other questions you want us to ask Angus, please send them through, and we might look at doing a follow-on episode of questions for Angus and the Neutrog business. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Nick.